subscribe our channel, stay till the end of the stories for more twist and turn. Comment us about what kind of stories you like to hear. Just found out my 31 male girlfriend, 30 female, of 15 years, had an affair that ended in March 2019. Now she's pregnant with my baby. So yeah, we met when we were young. I thought we had the strongest relationship. I was completely trusting in her. I let her go on girls' holidays and pretty much do whatever she wanted. When it came to other men, I thought she was untouchable. Towards the back end of 2018, I was going through a rough time. I felt lonely all the time and couldn't explain why. I'd grown apart from most of my friends and I'm kind of an introvert and find it hard to make new connections. I was in a bad place. Just before Christmas, my girlfriend told me that she wasn't feeling our relationship and that she thought it would be good if we had some time apart while she was drunk. We decided to wait and see what happened over Christmas. Around that time she booked for us to go to Berlin for my 30th. While we were there, we had an argument on the second day of a 4-day holiday and agreed that when we got home to spend some time apart. I spent the rest of the 2 days in Berlin alone. When I got back, I went back to my parents' house. My parents had thrown a party for me where I had to explain to all that we were spending time apart. I was devastated. About a month later she told me she was missing me and that she'd made a mistake. I asked her if there was anyone else and told her I needed to know how these feelings came about before I committed again. She just told me that she felt as though we weren't trying anymore and things had become stale. I moved back and since then things have been great. We tried for a baby in January but she miscarried after 6 weeks. We were both gutted. We decided to try again June after the lockdown was starting to ease off in the UK and she got caught on. About 6 weeks into the pregnancy she stopped eating and sleeping and was acting really strange. I thought she was just really worried due to miscarrying the first time. This weird behavior continued. We went for an early scan for reassurances where she was asking the nurse if you could be pregnant for longer than a year. She started meeting people she trusted in private and wouldn't let me listen to the conversations. I was wondering what I could do to help her, so I looked at her messages on her iPad and found messages saying that she's only slept with me since June 2019. I felt sick. I confronted her about it and she denied it till I told her I'd seen the messages. She then admitted and said it was a one-night stand in March when I was at my parents' and we were taking time. I didn't believe her. I went digging and found out that she'd had an affair that started in November 2019 and she ended it in March when I came back. I asked her why. She said June and she said she just rounded it up to a year. She went to Greece with her best friend in June of that year. I confronted her about that because she seemed genuine. But now it's on my mind that she'll only tell the truth if she gets caught. We are still living together with the hopes of working things out for the sake of the baby. She's been open about the affair now and answering questions I ask. I told her I don't want her to have anything to do with her best friend who on the messages was laughing to her about her situation and making fun of it all. I told her she doesn't support our relationship. I also told her I can't trust her in her current job. She works a 14-hour shift in a high-security mental health hospital where mobile phones are not allowed. She has agreed to these terms, but I can't help feeling like a bad person making these demands. Am I right to do this? Is it worth fighting for this relationship for the sake of the baby? Can I ever trust her again, seeing as though she has been able to keep secrets like that for over a year? I gave her the chance to come clean in March 2019 but she chose not to confess. TL, Doctor, my pregnant girlfriend never told me she had an affair 18 months ago. Can this relationship still work? Edit, she is also in a frail state of mind and keeps telling me all the stress is harming the baby. I feel like I need to try to make her happy just so no harm comes to the baby. She is also in a frail state of mind and keeps telling me all the stress is harming the baby. I feel like I need to try to make her happy just so no harm comes to the baby. You really don't see she's manipulating you? No remorse, just a desire to go back to her comfort provider. And when the baby arrives, what then? Have you read here how people get sucked into cheating whenever there's a life-altering event? It's amazing how people do not get that when a spouse says they need space it just translates to "I met somebody interesting who I want to fuck," and nobody catches it. True, that space thing is just an excuse to be with other people without feeling remorse. She was already seeing him for months before she called time. I think she needed the space to decide whether to leave me or not. Dude, this is a shell game to her. Keep the pieces moving, keep you guessing, only admit she's caught when you find proof. This is going to seem harsh, but ask her to terminate the pregnancy and leave. If she won't, then get a paternity test in vitro. Either way, you need to leave before it's born. You're never going to be able to trust her. If you can get out without a shared child, that's better, because otherwise she's going to use that kid to jerk you around like a puppet for the next 20 years. You'll end up hating her and resenting the child, even if you love it too. I would never ask her to terminate the child. Imagine if I asked her that and she doesn't, and she tells the child when it's old enough to understand. It would be heartbreaking for the child to find out her father never wanted them. When my mom was pregnant with me, my grandparents didn't approve of my father. They told my mom to get rid. I found this out and I never saw the grandparents the same way after that. You should very strongly reconsider the termination. If I was you, that's what I would do. I am of a belief that people like your wife shouldn't be having any offsprings. Their kind should be the last one in their genetic line. Humanity doesn't need more people like them. Please also understand that affairs are generational, not because of genetic reasons but because children normalize them. This kid will be one messed up kid because he or she will learn about this someday, no matter how hard you try. Finally, consider that raising a child is extraordinarily stressful and demanding thing, even between spouses with a healthy, loving marriage. A lot of marriage falls apart because of having kids and associated stress. When your relationship is so broken and trust is basically all but done, I shudder to think how the next 17 years of your life will look like. I shudder because I have lived 7 years of this myself. When you have a spouse who is basically checked out, you get no support and a lot of resistance in everything from kids' clothes to schools to activities. What is supposed to be a collaboration ends up being war every day. You might find a much better and fulfilling the next 17 years in a new relationship and having family with that person. If this child is not yours, highly unlikely, and if she wants to keep it, then it's her and her AP's problem. Dragging herself in between is pointless and does nothing good to any of you. That's interesting because her father is always having affairs and her mother always takes him back. She was always vocal about how disgusted she was with her father, though I never really thought she would do the same. Her meeting people in private and not letting you on the discussions is odd. Who are these people and what did they discuss? She is a cheat and liar. You will never get the truth from her. She probably had multiple affairs behind your back over the years on nights out and holidays. I know it's odd. She was meeting up with her mother and walking our dogs where normally I would be invited, as sort of thing. She was phoning her manager, who she confides in, but was going upstairs so I couldn't overhear the phone call. She invited the midwife, a friend of her parents, round and told me that she needed to talk to her alone. She was going delusional, thinking that the baby was someone else's who she had slept with about 18 months ago. She was making them look at the early scans and asking them if there's any possibility it was over a year-old baby inside her. The baby just looked like a small bean at 8 weeks, but she'd clearly sent herself. Delusional. No way. There is no way she thought she was pregnant for 18 months unless she is either 12 years old or special needs. Don't you think it's more likely that she was still seeing somebody else and getting other opinions on comparing recent timelines for when she had sex with you and that guy to try to figure who the father was? Or asking them if she should keep the baby and stay with you because she's unsure of the relationship? There are so many much more reasonable and believable reasons than she thought she was pregnant for 18 months. Thanks for listening so far. If story have an update, we will post here. Like, subscribe to our channel for upcoming stories.